When you hear the name Scarlett Johansson, something happens. Maybe it's the memory of a voice coming through a screen, a quiet performance that stayed with you, or the unmistakable image of Black Widow standing among the world's biggest superheroes. She started working remarkably young, appearing on stage as a child and making her film debut before she was even a teenager. But what happened next was far more unusual than simply becoming another young Hollywood star. By her teenage years, Johansson was already showing a seriousness that separated her from the crowd. Films like The Horse Whisperer and Ghost World gave audiences glimpses of what she could become, but Lost in Translation changed everything. Her performance was quiet, vulnerable, and remarkably mature. The kind of performance that made people stop seeing her as a promising young actress and start seeing her as someone with real presence. Suddenly, Scarlett Johansson wasn't just growing up in Hollywood. She was becoming one of its most interesting young talents. But here's the thing about Scarlett Johansson's story. She never stayed in one lane. She moved between intimate dramas, psychological films, comedies, science fiction, and action, constantly showing audiences a different version of herself. She could disappear into the complicated world of Match Point, become the voice of an artificial intelligence in her, or take on the haunting intensity of Under the Skin. Then came Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and everything changed again. What began as a supporting role in the Marvel Universe eventually became one of the defining characters of her career. For more than a decade, Johansson carried the character through some of the biggest films in modern cinema, balancing action, humor, vulnerability, and the enormous expectations that came with becoming a global franchise star. And suddenly, the actress who had built her reputation through smaller, character-driven stories was also one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. But she never let that image become the whole story. In 2019, she delivered two completely different performances in Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, earning 2 Academy Award nominations in the same year. One performance was deeply emotional and painfully personal. The other was sharp, strange, and unexpected. And that contrast said something important about her career. Scarlett Johansson wasn't simply a blockbuster actress who could handle serious roles. She was an actress who had learned how to exist in both worlds, the enormous and the intimate, the spectacular and the deeply human. She also stepped beyond acting, taking on producing, music, Broadway, and eventually directing, continuing to find new ways to challenge herself creatively. But what makes her journey genuinely compelling is what happened after she had already reached the level most actors spend their entire lives trying to reach. She could have stayed comfortably inside the identity of Black Widow, but instead she kept moving. Different characters, different genres, different challenges. She continued looking for what came next. That's a different kind of longevity. Not simply staying famous, but remaining curious enough to evolve when the world already thinks it knows exactly who you are. People may remember her as Black Widow, as the young actress from Lost in Translation, as the voice in her, or as one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but none of those images tells the whole story. What makes Scarlett Johansson's career so compelling is the distance between all of them. She grew up in front of an audience, became a respected dramatic actress, became a global action star, and then kept searching for another version of herself. Fame can give you an identity, but it can also trap you inside one. Johansson found a way through that trap. The roles changed, the genres changed, the spotlight changed, but the ambition stayed. Still evolving, still taking risks, still finding new ground, Scarlett Johansson turned what could have been one iconic career into something much larger. And maybe that's the real legacy. Not becoming one thing perfectly, but becoming many things without losing the person underneath.